A
Three,
men's World Cup
two,
match will be
one.
played on Canadian soil for the first time. The stadium hosting it currently seats 28,000 people, yet FIFA requires 45,000. That massive gap explains every structural transformation that follows. BMO Field sits on a historic patch of Toronto's exhibition place that has already watched 4 previous stadiums rise and fall. The current venue is the 5th structure to occupy this prime waterfront land, and if you know where to look, ghostly traces of its predecessors are still visible in the architecture. The Toronto Argonauts played their first game at Exhibition Stadium on August 5, 1959. After moving from Verity Stadium to the Canadian National Exhibition Grounds, the city's Canadian Football League team made it home immediately, reigning there for nearly 30 decades. By the time they departed in 1988, the venue had become an undisputed landmark for Canadian football. Then came baseball. The Toronto Blue Jays arrived in 1977, sharing a building never designed for their sport. The awkward sightlines showed it. Freezing winds blew off Lake Ontario and cut through the stands like a knife. Visiting players complained constantly, and the place earned a grim reputation as one of professional baseball's least pleasant venues. The Blue Jays played their final game there on May 28, 1989, before moving to the newly opened Sky Dome. The Argonauts had already left, and the structure lingered for another decade, increasingly neglected, until demolition crews finally brought it down on January 31, 1999. For 7 years after that, prime Toronto waterfront real estate sat empty, used only for parking. The original bases and home plate from the old baseball diamond remained marked in the asphalt, small weathered monuments visible to anyone walking across the lot, pointing to a stadium most people had already forgotten. When a replacement finally came, it wasn't another multi-purpose giant. Instead, the city chose to build something specifically for the beautiful game. BMO Field broke ground on March 29, 2006, funded by a partnership between 3 levels of government and MLSE. Construction crews worked through a brutal Toronto winter to meet an aggressive deadline. Then, on April 28, 2007, Toronto FC, the city's new Major League Soccer franchise, played their first home match against the Kansas City Wizards. The visitors scored the stadium's only goal that afternoon, handing the home side a 1-0 defeat. But that changed 2 weeks later, on May 12th. Striker Danny Dichio found the back of the net against the Chicago Fire in the 24th minute. It was Toronto FC's first ever home goal, and the crowd completely lost it. Supporters still sing for Dichio at minute 24 in every home match to this day. There were some problems in the early years, though. For instance, BMO Field originally used field turf, a synthetic surface that drew constant criticism from players who could feel the difference immediately. Soccer purists demanded grass, and the complaints grew louder until August 2009, when the stadium hosted a friendly against Real Madrid. BMO Field switched to natural grass permanently before the 2010 season, and the stadium settled into its true identity, a proper pitch with a fierce atmosphere and a devoted supporter culture. For the World Cup, they must expand capacity from 28,000 to 45,000. That renovation is costing a staggering $146 million. Toronto taxpayers are covering $123 million of that bill, with MLSE contributing the remaining $23 million. In exchange, the city gets a stadium capable of hosting the biggest sporting event on the planet for exactly 1 month. The expansion centers on 17,756 temporary seats spread across massive steel grandstands at the north and south ends. These structures are designed to be dismantled after the tournament, leaving BMO Field close to its original size once the World Cup ends. There's something slightly absurd about spending this much on infrastructure that will mostly disappear, but that's the price of admission to this level of competition. The permanent upgrades matter more, of course. Workers have installed 4 new LED video boards, one at each of the stadium's corner columns, each measuring 50 feet by 30 feet. Combined, they contain more than 5 million pixels. The production control room got a complete overhaul, transforming BMO Field's broadcast capabilities to meet FIFA's exacting technical specifications for global television coverage. Construction crews now have until spring 2026 to finish the temporary seating, upgraded lighting, new sound systems, and enhanced Wi-Fi infrastructure. FIFA's scheduled handover is May 12, 2026, exactly 30 days before Canada's opening match. FIFA requires neutral venue names to avoid conflicts with tournament sponsors. That means BMO Field becomes simply Toronto Stadium for the duration of the World Cup. The changes go far beyond swapping a name on broadcast graphics. Every BMO logo, every sponsor banner, and every piece of branded material that normally greets fans must be covered or removed entirely. The stadium presents itself as a blank canvas for FIFA's own commercial partners. For supporters who have watched Toronto FC play here since 2007, the familiar red and white branding that defines matchday will temporarily vanish, replaced by World Cup aesthetics designed for global broadcast audiences rather than local traditions. It's a reminder that during the tournament, BMO Field belongs to FIFA, not Toronto. The game presentation inside the bowl changes too. Replays, graphics, and stadium entertainment will run through the new production systems, all built to FIFA's technical standards. Enhanced replay angles, stadium-wide audio, and broadcast quality visuals will transform how fans experience each match. After the tournament, the neutral branding disappears and BMO Field gets its name back. Toronto's total World Cup hosting costs have climbed to nearly $380 million, according to CBC, far above earlier estimates. That figure covers more than stadium upgrades. It includes city services, transportation infrastructure, security operations, and FIFA's long list of requirements. Ticket demand created its own controversy. Toronto's organizing committee expects requests to vastly exceed available seats for each match, and that imbalance led to an unusual proposal, spending $10.7 million on ticket packages, with plans to resell them to residents. Then there's the matchday logistics. Exhibition Place sits near major roads and transit lines, which sounds convenient until you picture tens of thousands of fans arriving simultaneously through controlled security perimeters. The experience will feel nothing like a regular Toronto FC game. Tighter checkpoints, longer queues, and a transformed atmosphere await everyone who enters. By the time the referee blows the opening whistle on June 12, 2026, Toronto will have spent years planning, building, and arguing its way to this moment. The ticket fights will be forgotten. The budget debates will fade. What remains is whether the experience inside the stadium justifies everything it took to get there. When the final whistle blows on July 2, 2026, the temporary grandstands will come down, But it won't be the same stadium it was before. The video boards stay, the broadcast infrastructure stays. A venue built for domestic soccer now operates with technology installed for a global audience of billions. Exhibition Place has hosted 5 stadiums across 7 decades. Each one reflected what Toronto needed at the time: football, baseball, parking lots, soccer, and now a World Cup. The site keeps reinventing itself, and each version leaves something behind for the next. This time, what stays is a stadium upgraded far beyond what the city could have justified on its own.